Well, the Dean Skelos corruption case now in the hands of the jury. And as you know, once that happens, anything can happen. We've got a live report from the courthouse with Dominic. Then we'll talk to the state senator who wants to clean up Albany by finally putting in some real ethics reform. Also, Donald Trump's latest comments about Muslims aren't hurting him in the polls. Hardly. They actually might be helping him. But is his brand actually taking a hit? And is that even more damaging to the Donald? Good evening and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, folks. Well, the fate of Dean Skelos now in the hands of a federal jury in Lower Manhattan. And that is where we find our own Dominic Carter, who has been covering this and the Silver case from the very beginning. And I know, Dominic, we don't get a punctuation mark on it tonight here, but we're nearing the end.
You are nearing the end, Richard, but a big but. Don't expect a decision from this jury based on what they've asked for anytime soon. This is going into next week, but it's still a tough case against Dean Skelos. With the recorded wiretaps, this case has been daunting for the defense from day one.
I really can't talk to you. You should talk to Bornoff. You know we had to do something, correct?
Oh, no, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, we had to. He'll talk. Ask him the question, because if you want to, we got to protect me and you, that we never had a conversation. But talk to him, and he'll tell you where we are.
Oh, so you guys spoke to him?
We no longer work together, and he'll tell you why.
Really? All right.
Adam, do you read the newspapers?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we can't. Nothing's going to happen. We don't. We got to have deniability.
Prosecutors making a case in which Dean Skelos used his office to pressure businesses into giving his son cushy no-show jobs. And in one instance, a $20,000 disguised bonus for doing no work. In return, prosecutors argued Dean Skelos took official action favorable to those businesses. This was one conversation Adam Skelos had threatening a representative for Greek restaurants.
A lot of people don't have my cell phone number, okay? I don't give my cell phone number out to everybody. You have my cell phone number. Now I'm getting missed calls and this and that. It's a privilege to have that number. Now, if you want to utilize my reach and business opportunity, then you call me and I'll set up a meeting. Otherwise, don't tell me you're going to set up a meeting and not set it up, okay? Because we do very good things. We do it, but you don't do a thing, okay? That's why you are where you are, and I am where I am, okay?
This is when Adam Skelos was upset Governor Cuomo did not approve fracking in the state, and in this recorded call urged his father to run for governor.
Who's going to be out there supporting fracking, Dad?
Yeah, no, I know that, and he talked to our people. We said go with it. All that, and he changed his mind today, I think.
He's such a... How do we beat him in an election?
We will. I'm going to run against him.
I wish you would. I wish you would, Dad. I would... I would be so proud if you kicked his...
Yep, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it because this is stupid. Everything is by polls and stuff like that.
Defense attorneys tried to make their clients look like sympathetic figures, but there was the damaging testimony of fellow Republican Al D'Amato that he tried to warn Skelos his son was out of control. Prosecutors have even shown how Adam Skelos unsuccessfully used burner phones and talked in code to evade authorities. Adam Skelos' prediction was correct. The U.S. attorney was listening in.
Can't even have a conversation with you because you're in politics about everything. You know, it's just frustrating.
It is.
You know what?
It is.
I honestly hate the job now. Like, you've been doing it for 30-something years. I'm going through a rough time. I want to have a conversation. But just, you know, you could give me real advice rather than, everything will work out.
I can give you advice.
No, but you can't because you can't talk normally because it's like freak of horror listening to every phone call. It's just frustrating, all right?
As Senator Skelos has said before, we have confidence in the jury system. and confidence at the end of the process. Senator Skelos is going to be vindicated. Thank you.
Richard, the reason why I can predict that this is definitely going into next week, take a listen to what the jury has asked for. They have asked for the transcripts, the entire transcripts of 8 or 9 witnesses that have been on the stand. They want the entire transcripts. The wiretaps we just focused on, they want to hear the wiretaps, which was not done today. The judge, Kimber Wood, it has to be done inside the courtroom. They have also asked for a number of exhibits. So this is not going to wrap up in one day tomorrow on Friday. This jury is taking this business very seriously, and it's going into next week. Richard, let's go back to you.
Well, I'll make you a gentleman's wager, Dominic, that it does wrap up because of the rule of Friday. No jury, especially in the holiday season, want to be deliberating into the weekend, let alone into next week, but we shall see. Give me an idea, though, Dominic, because the overwhelming, consensus is if Silver was convicted on all 7 counts, with the evidence that was presented and no tangible quid pro quo, given the damning wiretaps that you played even just a fraction of, it seems that this is far more open and shut. Do many people, or the vast majority, believe both the Skelos is going to get bad news when the jury finally comes back in?
Most people, there's no other way to put this, Richard. Most people believe this is an open and shut case, that there will be convictions. They're each facing 8 counts, extortion, bribery, conspiracy. But I'm glad you brought that up, Richard, because as we have pointed out over several trials, the charge from the judge is extremely important. And Judge Wood, this morning, and now take a listen to this, it's been said that charges favor prosecutions. Well, that was the case this morning. Judge Wood said that as it relates to Skelos, that he did not have to personally profit or benefit from the scheme. That's a big obstacle in terms of Skelos to overcome. That is Dean Skelos. And as it relates to Adam Skelos, it's a matter the judge said over and over, did he aid in the bed? Did he aid in the bed in terms of these schemes? So it's tough, Richard. And when you listen to those wiretaps, and like you said, we just played a little bit just now. This jury's been listening to this for 4 weeks. So it's going to be interesting.
It's hard to make the Skelos sympathetic figures throughout all this. Dominic, thank you so much. Let me bring in our panel right now. We got Richard Brodsky, a former Democratic New York State Assemblyman, now senior fellow at Demos, professor at NYU. Democratic State Senator David Carlucci joins us as well tonight, as is the always wonderful Jessica Pratt, Republican strategist and PR expert with the November team, and Andrew Whitman, our senior political correspondent. All right. For you guys, you too, Jessica, it's not just a name here. You guys have worked with the Skelos family. There's a personal dynamic to this thing. It's a sad story. This is a father trying to help out his kid. Obviously, it crossed so many boundaries here. It's not tiptoeing. I mean, they leapfrogged where they were supposed to go. But in the end, it's sad.
You feel 2 things at the same time. One, that justice needs to be done. Where wrongdoing is proven, it needs to be stated, and punishment needs to be meted that. And then you look at this sad situation and you go, oh, poor Dean, even if he did it. And you got to keep your empathy, but you got to stand up for what's right at the same time.
I mean, Senator, burner phones, wiretaps, no-show jobs. I've said it before, it sounds like a bad episode of The Sopranos, and it's yet another black eye for Albany here. Even as jaded as folks can be and what you've had to endure with so many of the colleagues from both chambers here that have gotten in so much trouble here, did this one even stun some of the folks in Albany to say, my God, Dean Skelos, who knows his way around Albany, Senate Majority Leader one time, that these are the kind of conversations and schemes he even permits himself to be even in the same conversation about?
It seems like nothing is too surprising anymore. You hear one case after the other, and it really speaks to the fact that we've got to change the status quo. If anything else speaks of just shaking up the system, making sure we have dramatic reform, it needs to be done. And I think a big thing that we see here with this particular case is just it's not black and white, right? There's a lot of gray area, and I hope that this decision will show that it should be black and white. And
not so much the judgment of the Skeloses in this, but what is legal and what isn't legal,
exactly.
Right?
I mean, it's like, it just, you hear these stories, you hear the wiretaps, and I think people will say, it sounds horrible, it sounds disgusting, and to think that people would think that that's ethical or legal is just wrong. And that's where we need to make it black and white, tighten up the system, make sure people know when they're going over the line, and that the justice can be served.
And we'll do in the next segment the specifics of what you're talking about and the perspectives of the table as to where we should or shouldn't go. Jessica, also on the wiretaps, Ed Mangano. I mean, this isn't going to end just with the Skeloses. There's a lot of potential fallout from this. Just how worried are folks on the island as to how far-reaching this could be?
Well, I think there was a recent story that showed that he was denied immunity. So that kind of, there's been rumors going around for a while, but that really, I think, set up some antennas. So we'll see. I mean, Preet Bharara just came on Twitter today and for the first time tweeted, "Stay tuned." That's his favorite ominous phrase. So, I think there will unfortunately be more shoes to drop, and or if not, then people get their names cleared. But he's definitely looking into everything, including what's going on with the Buffalo Billion up in Western New York. So there's a lot more to come, I think.
In both of these trials, we've talked a lot about the culture of Albany, and we're not even sure if everything that happened was legal or illegal, and certainly Shelley Silver is on appeal going to try to claim that what he did was perfectly legal. To me, what comes through when I hear those wiretaps is the culture in there and the ease and comfort with which the Skeloses were able to sort of pervert the machinery of government to their benefit.
Adam Skelos is not a purveyor of anybody's culture in Albany.
His father certainly is. His father certainly didn't think twice about bending the machinery that was at his disposal for the benefit of his son. He did, and this is all during a time when everybody knew that Preet Bharara was watching, and yet it didn't seem like they thought twice about doing this.
I have been in the uncomfortable position of trying to say something about this without sounding like I'm defending crooks, okay? And I maintain that I'm not, but I'm also maintaining that the great majority of people who serve there are not crooks and are not even unethical. They do the best they can under very difficult circumstances, and by and large, the product over the last years has been not so bad. Now, that being said, I go back, because I have to say it, and because I believe it, that the criminality is terrible and needs to be punished. The real money problems that flow in Albany are legal corruption.
But
and
from
that's
a
what we ought to
broader
be
level, and I want to do the detail part, I got to tell you, and I'm not connoting the two, but I'm practicing Catholic, and I remember when the scandal was full bore about the abuse in the church. And the overarching line, which was completely true, was the vast majority of priests were good. Selfless people who gave of themselves here, not looking for profit or anything, as charitable a population as you'll find. But after a while, and I'll tell you from talking to some of the priests, they were some of the angriest ones because they felt that they were being tarred and feathered because, in effect, the administration, or in this case, the archdiocese, allowed for the bad actors to be protected in ways. Now, it's not the same thing. No one's talking about the abuse of minors. But to me, I'm curious, do you feel frustration that in trying to say, oh, well, they don't speak for everybody, and tinkering on the edges, that guys like you and the new class in Albany, whether it's the Senate or the Assembly, you're painted with the same brush as the Pedro Espadas and the rest of the world when you're not?
It's totally... it's despicable. It's so aggravating. I mean, I just came from Ossining High School, and I was talking to some students. And I talk about when I was young in high school, I wanted to run for office one day. And I would tell people, one day I want to run for office. And people would say to me, why do you want to do that? You're a nice person. And that's, these students, the students see this, and it's like almost like politician creep. And we need to fight that. And so it's not just me. Of course, it paints everyone in a bad brush.
Is, and I agree with you, but are you most angry? I've heard some that'll say, oh, the media, okay? But I'm like, you know what? Maybe a little bit. But more so, if I'm mad right now, Shelley Silver and Dean Skelos had a lot of discretionary power, and predecessors that were both the Speaker and the Majority Leader in the Senate did before. And the way they wielded the power and how it was tolerated by rank and file has created a culture where it's like they'll deign to see who get which different funds, how it'll be appropriated, who becomes the commissioner.
Knew nothing of the criminality.
Oh,
nothing.
Richard, you have to be living under a rock to not know that that's not going on in Albany. Okay. The problem is you have all these people. Listen, no one was surprised about Shelley Silver. For years, everyone knew that he was making a ton of money on this side and controlling everything with trial lawyers. Come on, don't even try
nonsense.
that. It is not nonsense. I was 20 years old when I got up there, and it was one of the first things I figured out in Albany. So please,
I think it
spare
speaks to
me.
the fact of that. Look, it's like we all know robbing someone's home is illegal, but we still lock our door when we leave the house. We have to do the same thing in Albany, that when there's blatant opportunities for corruption, we need to weed it out.
Right,
we need to make sure that there's controls in place, there's transparency, and we change the system. So I'm most frustrated with the entire system. These individual actors, sure, they were bad, but the list can go on and on and on.
But you made a point to me, which was, why is it up to the Preet Baharas to have to clean it up?
Exactly.
Why isn't it that the other members said, time out a minute here? He doesn't speak for me.
And I think that's what our U.S. attorney is doing. He's putting the whole system on trial.
Right, but it shouldn't have had to get to that point. You have all these lawmakers being brought out in handcuffs, but the three people that are in charge, and to your point about the way the system works up there, you guys don't have a ton of power as the rank and file members, and everyone's so afraid to rock the boat because you lose funding, you lose, your Lulus and everything else. So the problem is, you have all this going on, and the three people in charge, Dean Skelos, Shelley Silver, and the governor, who came in saying he was going to be the white knight, ended up being the biggest corrupter
just give me a segue, because when we come back, I'm going to remind everybody what this governor said he was going to do when he was elected. Remember with the backdrop of Tammany Hall, he was going to dredge the swamp, and then what he said in the last week here as to what the realities of what he can do are. We'll get into all that next. Stay with us.